happened so long ago, but it's so vivid. I still recall her face. I recall her dress. I recall this page. It is something which has left an indelible impact on my mind. Now, when I became a teacher, that scared 5-year-old was still inside me. Where can she go? She's still inside me as I talk to you now. The rule-bound teacher who terrified me was still in my memory. And both of them influenced how I engaged with my students. As so much more from my past did. I'm sure those of you who are teachers in the audience today will agree 100% that your past is influencing the way you teach today. But my question is, was I aware of this when I first became a teacher? And my answer, quite honestly, is no. I was not aware of it. I just plunged headlong into teaching, as most of us do. And I would like you to think about this question. How or would it help at all if I were aware of the way that scared 5-year-old and that rule-bound teacher, among so many other elements of my past, were influencing my behavior and my pedagogy today? So I want to refer to a research paper that puts this very well. Its name is Telling Teaching Stories. And it's by Michael Connolly and Jean Clendenin. It's from this journal, Using Personal Histories in Teacher Education. And among many things, what it says very succinctly is teacher education is commonly seen as an injection, a COVID vaccine or a Covishield vaccine. But teacher education is not just a one-time thing, it's a continuum. It is lifelong. And education, they define as more of a process of rethinking and rebuilding the past. The past being an inescapable part of each and every human being. Through education, what do? We rethink and rebuild our past. At every moment in our lives, whether we are in class or not, our entire person is there. Our past is there. This resonated with me, especially as I just recounted to you an incident which is very much there with me. For example, when I taught chemistry to 8th graders, she was very much there, my kindergarten teacher who terrified me as a 5-year-old. I could not leave my past out. I carried it with me always, don't we all? And naturally, this influenced how I taught. Fortunately, there were a myriad of influences, and I never tire telling the story of my 9th grade chemistry teacher. I must ask the pardon of those who've heard the story so many times before. I was in the 9th grade in Delhi, and I had had just 1 year of chemistry before that. We started chemistry in the 8th grade in my time. And in the 9th grade, my chemistry teacher walked in. She was new. She had not taught me the previous year. And after she taught that first class and walked out, I turned to my neighbor and said, "Do you know what I'm going to do in college? I'm going to do chemistry." That was the influence of my chemistry teacher from the word go. She got me so charged about the subject that I was determined to be a famous chemist one day and discover a new element. I even decided its name. It was going to be called Neerajanium. And I was so thrilled to do the subject that every day when I would pack my bag according to tomorrow's timetable, if there was a double period of chemistry, I would dance my way to school. And that double period would shine like, with a luster from the timetable. I would wish that all the 8 periods were chemistry. But this is a story for another seminar. So I just want to tell you that she was very much a part of my past. And the rule-bound nuns of the convent school that I went to, they are still very much a part of my psyche. I can see them still. And so on. This is just a smattering of memories, a smattering of the past. As many of you will also see, so many things are influencing you today as teachers. So a teacher brings his or her life story into the class every day, whether or not the teacher is aware of it. Where does this life story lie? In the chatter of the mind. in the images that the mind throws up during tired phases, or any phases, not just tired phases, in the fears that the mind conjures up, in the aspirations that the heart yearns for, in the regrets and disappointments that pull us back, and in the way that this entire soup, if I can call it a soup of thoughts, feelings, emotions, all these impact our behavior. That's our life story affecting us. And I like to use this analogy. Those who've attended a classical music concert in India, they know that there is a tanpura always in the background. It keeps droning away in the background. And when do we notice it? When the vocalist stops for a minute, because maybe the percussionist wants to retune his percussion instrument, his or her percussion instrument. And there is a pause in the concert. And that's when we notice the tanpura droning away. And we sit up and take note. We said, oh dear, that's the pitch, that's the scale. The vocalist, the violinist, the accompaniments, they're all tuned to that pitch. That is determining the scale of the entire concert. But that was a drone we didn't notice until now. Similarly, there is a drone happening in our minds all the time. And it determines our pitch. It determines our scale. It determines how we behave. But we seldom notice it. We notice it only when we pause and reflect. Another research paper says this very well. And this is a research paper by Kathleen Pithouse, who teaches in a college in South Africa. She's a teacher educator. And this is a paper I had read long back, titled "The Future of Our Young Children Lies in Our Hands, Re-envisaging Teacher Authority Through Narrative Self-Study." In this paper, Pithouse describes a course that she conducted for teachers. These are all practicing teachers in South Africa. And they were all into their 30s and 40s, some even in their 50s. And what she did was, she had them go through writing narratives of their own lives and study them in order to undergo some kind of teacher development, which she was envisioning. But what she did was very interesting. She asked them to write letters to their most impactful teacher. When she asked them to do this exercise, she did not specify whether the teacher had to have had a positive impact on them or a negative impact on them. She just said, each of you write a letter to your most impactful teacher. Now, these were teachers, many of them who had studied in apartheid South Africa, when apartheid had not yet been lifted. And they had undergone many humiliating experiences. To her utter surprise, every one of those teachers wrote a letter to a teacher who had had a very powerfully negative impact on them.
Wow.
Not only did they write that letter, when she asked each one to read aloud that letter, they sobbed, they wept, as if it had happened to them just yesterday. And they realized that, my God, the impact of that teacher is still in my every cell of my body, how it is affecting me even today. And they realized, they said, this is something we must never do to our students. If this is the kind of impact a teacher can have on us, we have learned our lesson. The future of our young children lies in our hands. They felt the power of that teacher's impact so far into their adult years. And they resolved never to negatively impact their own students like this. And this was a very short course. And through this short course, they all underwent this transformative experience through the simple act of writing a letter to that teacher. Can you imagine what would have happened if some of your teachers underwent such a course? How much they could revisit and perhaps change